Hello, my name is Jimmy Olsson. I'm a writer-director, and I'm here with Chris Gordon from Hellblazer Biz.
Everyone, I have the honour and the privilege and the company of director and filmmaker Jimmy Olsson today. So, hey, Jimmy, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
No, you're welcome. So we're going to be talking about, obviously, here for your latest short film, which is Alive, which I have seen as well. It's a great film. But obviously find out a bit more about yourself and where your inspirations are from and things like that. And just basically have a little chat.
Cool, sounds good.
Excellent. So, I mean, obviously filmmaking, it's not the most common thing to go into. So when did you realise this was where you wanted to end up uh, spending your life?
Yeah, well, I have this, really vivid memory of it. It was. I was 15, and it was a summer night, and I came back to my home with this VHS, I think, of the film Breaking the Waves by Lars von Trier.
hmm
And I watched it, and I remember, the sun coming up, and I was, my jaw was on the floor. And I realized that, films are more than entertainment. And straight after that, I was really angry with myself because I wasted so much time on shit films. uh, so I started to watch a lot more art house films, um, and well, basically just trying to learn and
hmm
figure out that you can actually do this for a living. And then it took me a while. I moved to a new city and studied, and then I took it up again when I was 21, 22. I did some amateur films with some friends,
Yeah.
and actually I wanted to be an actor when I was like 13 or 14.
hmm
So I did well. I wasn't a complete idiot when it came to films. I watched a lot of films, but it was that experience with Lars von Trier's film that made me want to explore the fact that you can make a living out of it. So
Excellent,
yeah,
excellent, brilliant. It's nice to see it's something with more of the. It's very much more of the art of film as well, right? Like you say, rather than these like blockbusters and stuff, it's nice to see that it's the very much it's very
yeah,
the art form, which is where you've explored it from, and you have. I mean, if, looking at the shorts, I can see very much the depth that you go to when you're
mm,
doing your filmmaking,
mm.
which is really nice and refreshing to see. It's not I'll say refreshing to see it's different. It's not refreshing in the fact that it hits you really hard, but yeah, which is what the idea is. But so yeah, it's very refreshing to see that different take on how a film is made, rather than rather than just going out there and making something that I'm not going to trivialize everyone's films, but just
Exactly,
as
exactly,
yeah, but yeah,
exactly. Well, I think I enjoy a lot of genres. I enjoy, when I was a kid, I watched a lot of Spielberg
mm-hmm.
and the classic blockbusters, and I enjoyed it very much, and I still do enjoy them. Some of them, at least, the ones that still holds up. Um, but it was kind of refreshing to me as well to see a different type of storytelling. And it came in the right age because I was beginning to learn how to be a grown up, and when I started, one of my biggest directors is Andrei Tarkovsky and Ingmar Bergman, and I'm a huge fan. I've got
Yeah,
several tattoos and everything. uh, but I was 22 when I watched my first Bergman film, and I think that was a perfect age, because some people say, "Oh, it's so dark and difficult," and he's really not, you know.
Yeah.
But if you're too young to watch his films, but that goes for many films and filmmakers, obviously, unless it's like E.T., which is super universal. But so I think, you know, you have to start in certain ages for certain kind of films and
Yeah.
filmmakers to
Yeah.
really
No,
appreciate them. Yeah.
I do agree. I mean, when I did German, I studied German at university, and we did a film course there. So a lot of the films we studied were like Fritz Lang, Wim Wenders, Werner Herzog. You know,
Yeah.
these were very powerful. Um,
Did you watch any Rainer Werner Fassbinder films?
yes, I can't remember them, but I know. Yes, I do know the name. Yes, we did watch them. But yeah, they are. I mean, and they're very similar. Like I say, they're all like a particular genre. Symbolism is important in your work as well. And
Yeah.
I think, like these guys, like obviously Fritz Lang, Metropolis, was one of the most symbolic movies of all time, you know, ever. It's
You know,
just,
it still holds up.
it
It's
does, it
still a
does,
masterpiece. Yeah.
it does. I mean, you can just put it to today's society and look, oh, there you go.
It's
It's
almost
not
100 years old, man. It's crazy.
shocking, isn't it? In 100
Yeah.
years, the
Yeah.
ethos of, like, you know, the rich and the working class and the rich class, you know, the upper class,
Yeah.
it's not
Yeah.
changed in 100 years. That
No,
is very eye opening when you think of it like
it
that.
is. Yeah,
He was very ahead of his time. So
for
yeah, but
sure.
yeah, I do. Yeah, I kind of studied those, you know, um, those kinds of directors as well when I was at uni, and it was fascinating watching their films. It was really good. Some of them, they're just like, even Leni Riefenstahl from obviously the wartime and her propaganda films, obviously.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
even though if you take that concept away from it, you can it's again, it's the symbolism of, I think was it Wings of Desire? Was that the one, or was it when it flew in over the clouds, through the
Wasn't
clouds?
that? Yeah, was that Wing?
Was that
No, what?
It wasn't Wings of
With
Desire, was it?
Triumph des Willens.
That's the one, Triumph des.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yes, which is
That's
obviously very
well, you know,
political.
as a filmmaker, she was, you know, even if she made propaganda film for the wrong people, she really made them look better.
Yes.
In a sense.
Exactly, and you know, and that just shows how much powerful film, you know, how a good filmmaker can actually
Exactly.
make
Yeah.
something, which is brilliant. I mean, you actually started out in advertising as well, so I guess that gave you also very practical knowledge, because you studied and trained
Hmm.
in qualified, you know, to get where you've got. But I guess
Hmm.
working in that area gave you that practical knowledge and practical experience, which then helped you.
Yeah, you know, I went to this film school here in Stockholm for 2 years, and during my training or education, I started to work, you know, with commercials and music videos and stuff, like doing most of the stuff behind camera, like, you know, production manager, first AD, and editor, and producing, and, you know, did a lot of stuff, even in, you know, our art department.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked for like 1.5 years, you know, without any pay, just to learn the chops, basically, or understand how it works, and to get to know people and get to know the platforms, and slowly, I when I got the chance to direct something, I took it, and that's also a thing when you get the chance to direct anything, because I already knew that I wanted to work as a director, but it sometimes, if you get the chance of doing anything and there's no money in the production, it's like, that's frustrating, but you can only do your best, and so I did a lot of, you know, different stuff, commercial stuff, and short films and stuff like that, for a number of years, and I was in the commercial business for well, I still am a little bit, but I was there 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I started working as a full-time director 10 years ago, because I didn't want to, be stuck in a realm of doing most of the stuff. I
Yeah.
wanted to be known for being a director. So I took that leap 2010. And it was tough, because the first 2 years was really tough, because you had to say no to well-paid jobs, as a first AD or production manager,
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah. But I made up my mind. So after that, it's been ups and downs, but I'm still here.
Excellent. And you came out with your first film, Repressed, wasn't it? And that was
Yeah,
that's
that was my first professional film, you could
yeah,
say.
yeah. Sorry, yeah, it wasn't your first film, obviously. But yeah. So
Oh, well, yeah,
in that respect, so I mean, that was about a couple
exactly, yeah.
of friends on a bus, I believe, and they were just
Yeah,
sort of. Repressed memory comes back when they see some people on the bus. If I've nothing,
exactly.
yeah. So
And that was actually sorry, that was actually a memory of mine that happened to me. I don't know if you've seen the film, but it's about this guy who sees a really, really drunken girl, a teenager, and a bunch of guys, and he wants to do something about it, because he thinks that something bad is going to happen to her if she walks home with that guy or whatever. So, and it's a tricky, because it's a one take thing on the bus for 15 minutes, and we stop the bus, we get out, and so it was a bit tricky to shoot. And it's 360, everything. But so that was a memory, and most of my films are based on things I've seen or read, because it's slice of life, really. If I made a comedy once about a weird bank robbery, and I read this, couple of lines in a newspaper about this man in Texas. Obviously, he wanted to rob a bank,
right.
and he wanted to rob the bank for like $2,000, which is funny, because why don't you aim higher? But the bank clerk convinced him to take a loan instead. So that was funny. So when I read that, I need to write something about. I need to do something with this.
Yeah.
And it was quite funny. So yeah, that's my take on making films. If I could see the smallest thing, and could be could be a guy or woman falling asleep on the bus in a certain way, or make a certain sound. Then that's a character feature, that's a character flaw, and then you can start building things. So that's basically how I work.
Oh, excellent! Very interesting to hear that. So in that respect, then moving, how did you come up with the idea for Alive? Because that's obviously very powerful.
Yeah. Well, I listened to this podcast last year. I was going back from Italy. I was a jury member of film festivals. I was coming back to Stockholm, and I was at the Munich airport waiting for my flight to Stockholm, and I listened to this podcast, and there was a story there about this guy in a wheelchair, and he wanted to have an escort, and he told his assistant, when the escort comes, you can't be here. Okay, so the assistant had to wait outside in a coffee shop, and not knowing who was coming, or when, or what he or she looked like.
Yeah.
So when I listened to that, I thought that was intriguing. there was some drama there where I just felt it, and I needed to write it down. So I wrote it really, really, really quickly,
Yeah.
like 1.5 hours or something. I've written a
Wow.
first draft,
Yeah.
which is weird. It's too quick. So it was so quick that I didn't think I would this. I just needed to cleanse my system of this idea or thought.
Mhm.
But it turned out it was quite all right in the end. But that was that's where the idea came how it came about.
Fantastic. And I mean, you are very interested, like we've already discussed, you're very much interested in the inner depths of a person as well. And
Mm,
obviously with Alive,
mm,
that is very obvious because you've got Victoria who is, I'd say, I wouldn't say trapped. Well, she is kind of trapped in her body. You know, she's, you know, her mind's perfectly active there, and it's obviously
mm,
it probably reflects a lot of people around the world without, you know,
mm.
who are like that. And it is a very great film. I love the relationship between her and the carer as well. By the way, that's
Yeah,
you know, which is a lovely friendship that they seem to have there. Where,
yeah,
and
sure,
obviously,
sure.
hearing where it's come from, you can hear that story. Where it's, you know, it's great to hear. Um, so obviously, it seems very much you do want to tell the story about that inner person rather than something taken at face value, which is what I think we already touched before. So that,
Yeah, you're right. And when I wrote it, I Victoria, she's suffering from this brain damage that she got from an accident, which we don't really talk about.
mm,
Uh, well, I got the question earlier. How do you write for someone who's disabled?
hmm,
Uh, I was like, no, I don't write any differently than I would write if it was an able-bodied person. It's it's still a person who can't really move
yeah,
or as such, and so it's two ordinary people, having a relationship, but and I wanted to explore. There's a theme there. I wanted to explore how we as able-bodied people, how we see disabled people,
hmm,
how we pass judgment on them, um, even if it's not. Even if we don't mean to, but we still
yeah,
do because we are
subconsciously,
taking care of.
yeah,
Subconsciously, exactly. And so now, so Ida, the caregiver, she's like the audience. She's like us.
hmm,
So I wanted to play on a little moral dilemma. Who are you to decide for other people? Even because she's a grown up,
yeah,
and but on the other hand, what happens if something bad happens? Whose fault is it, and who's responsible? Um, so yeah, I wanted to play around with that. I and I think for me it's kind of therapeutic because I think when I was a teenager or before my brain was fully developed at, I don't know,
hmm,
25, uh, I might have had some prejudice against disabled people, and I'm not ashamed to say it because I think everyone has or have had.
yeah.
So it was therapeutic for me to make this film to get rid of the past, really.
Wow, fantastic. I was going to say definitely with the prejudice. I remember when I grew up I was in Watford near London.
Mm,
There was a gentleman, sad actually. I think he was only 21 or 22, but his parents had brought
mm,
him a car for his 21st. I think it must have been 21st birthday, and someone drove straight into him, wrote the car off, and it basically caused him severe brain damage and motor, body issues with being able to use his body as it should, and he'd walk. He'd really be determined to walk, which he did, but he'd walk at a stagger,
yeah.
and it used to break my heart because my dad was a minister and he knew this guy. I knew the story because my dad had told me so.
Mm,
There's a lovely guy called Robert, the man was, and
mm,
you'd see him staggering, to the library and stuff. So I'd try and offer help purely because I knew the story. But people would look at him and just look down on him, thinking he was drunk because he would fall over or he'd stagger and stuff. And this is going back. How old am I? Oh my gosh, this is going back like 25, no, even 30 odd years now, even longer. So so it was very much things weren't known, and people were, they would just look down. So it's very good to see this film where you breach that, and you approach that subconscious thoughts of where people view people. Well, you say they're not disabled. They're just people who might be, not be able to use their body like anyone else can. It doesn't mean they're not less of a person. So which is true.
Yeah, and it's all about, mostly it's all about aesthetics, isn't it? Because if you see a person who has issues with her or body or struggles to move or speak, then you automatically, I think, you think that the person inside is like that, which is, obviously not true. So I agree. I think it's important to try to get over that. They have the same yearns, or they want the same things that we all do. Obviously.
Yeah. And with Victoria especially, obviously there's such a wit in the character that comes across when, I want to borrow your boyfriend. It does. It didn't make me
half true, half funny. I don't know. It's
because the truth always said in jest. But it was. I mean, and the casting was superb with that film as well. Very symbolic, with obviously and very. You do like the close-up facial shots. I've noticed as well. You seem to work very much with the actors and their facial expressions, especially in this one. It works so well because obviously with the character of Victoria. That's pretty, in that respect, that's probably one of the main areas you can focus and communicate through. So that is a very, very big, well, as far as I saw it, that was a very big theme throughout the film of being able to focus and show the person, show Victoria's inner self through her expression.
Yeah, and I agree. And going back to Bergman, Ingmar Bergman said the greatest invention is the close-up, which is true in a way, and especially like you said, she can control her face and her expressions, and we need to be closer to her. To really see her and what she wants and what she means by it. And I think it's super important to work closely and to work with I would say if I'm a big fan of subtext. I'm a big fan of playing it small, and acting, underacting almost. When a certain look or a wink or a grimace, something that represents the whole scene. Could be. It's not in this one, I would say, but still, it's the basic rule to show, don't tell.
Yeah, no, that's it. Yeah, very, very true. And I think some of it, there are parts in the film, I think there are, with little smirks that Victoria give, especially after this, borrowing your boyfriend, she's just got this little smirk on her mouth.
Exactly.
Which tells the whole thing of what, of how she's thinking. How did you cast for it as well? Because they were all very superb, especially Ava Johansson, very superb.
She's brilliant. So I already, from when I wrote it, I knew that I wanted to work with Madeline Martin, who plays Ida, the caregiver, because I've known her for a couple of years and I've seen her in lots of films. So she's very talented. So, and then me and the producer, we were talking about trying to cast a disabled person who is an actor, and in Stockholm we don't have much of don't have much disabled people who works as an actor, and I couldn't. I needed to have a good actor, obviously, and so we searched. I had some auditions that wasn't right fit, and then Madeline sent me a picture of Ava, and I had seen her before. She does mostly theatre, but I had seen her in a short a couple of years ago when she played a man. She played a very famous man in Sweden, one of the biggest actors we have in Sweden. She played him.
Okay.
And she did that, that was very funny. So she's a great character actress. So we brought her in for an audition and just played around with the text, me, her, and Madeline. And I had this gut feeling that let's try this, because I saw in her that she wanted to be really engaged and do her research and work hard. So that's how I found her for this part, and she's a perfect fit. And then we had lots of talks and meetings during the pre-production and research, and rehearsed the text, and we did a lot of work. So when we got to the shoot, we were really well prepared. And also there's a guy called Joel who plays the boyfriend of Ida. He's also an old friend of both Madeline and Ava from the theatre. And Madeline wanted to have someone, because there's a sex scene in it, and she wanted to have someone that she feels secure with. So she knew him, and he's brilliant. It's a small part, but he does the job perfectly, I think.
He does, yeah, definitely. Like, especially in the first opening scene, because like we talked about before, about how people have that subconscious way you treat someone. He was speaking slowly to her. I noticed that. He was talking like she like she couldn't hear him properly or couldn't understand him, and it was obviously subconscious for the character to do that. But he didn't know he was doing it. He was trying to be nice and polite, which he was. But it was just obviously you could see deliberately slowed that down to just because she was in a wheelchair, and that's
exactly. And it's like you treat someone like a kid because they are the same height as a kid. And that's weird. I try to treat my kids as adults. I talk to them as an adult, because I don't know what's right or wrong. Am I a good parent or not? I don't know. Let's find out in like 10-15 years to see.
Excellent. I mean, as well, this has been doing the film. There are a lot of festivals as well. I know you got 4 wins. Is it 4 wins now? And you've many more nominations, I think. Or is it?
It's on IMDb. It's 4 wins, but I think it's 7, because there's a couple of smaller festivals that aren't IMDb qualified, apparently.
Okay,
but I think
So, but fantastic.
The film has been really successful so far, even though it's a pandemic in the world. And so a lot of festivals are, most of them, all of them are online,
virtual,
or hybrid forms. But in June, I won this huge award in Huesca Film Festival in Spain, which is an awesome festival and Oscar qualifying.
I was about to mention that as well. That's really, really good for you.
It's really good. I'm really pleased with that. And then Ava won Best Actress at Short Shorts in Tokyo, which is huge as well. So it's I can't complain. I'm really, really happy. And now a couple of days ago, we won Best International at Holly Shorts. So
brilliant.
It's overwhelming.
I can imagine, and it does deserve it. I'm not being sycophantic. The film does deserve it, because it's really good subject matter. It's a really well made and thought out subject matter as well, of how you put it across. And it must be difficult in such a short film to actually get get the point made, because you've really got very limited time to get
Yeah.
people to actually warm to the characters. But you do in Alive, you really do warm to Victoria
Well, thank
and
you. Yeah.
and Ada. You do. It's great. It's especially towards the end as well, with a little, again, that smile she has at the end, where she,
Yeah.
I'm not going to
Yeah.
ruin it for people who've not seen it, but her little punchline at the end just having me in
Yeah.
stitches laughing.
In one line, she's taking back control, basically.
Exactly.
And yeah, I wrote that last line, and I couldn't decide if it's funny, silly, or good. But I decided that it's all at once.
Yeah, it does, and
Yeah.
you're right. It sums up the entire thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And obviously, you were in there as well as
Well, yeah,
briefly.
it's a low budget film, and we didn't have time or the effort to find someone scary or creepy when we have someone already in the team. So
I did notice your picture on the Tinder profile with your arms
yeah,
out. So.
yeah, it is what it is. If you
Oh no,
have the
that's
team,
fine. No, I didn't mean that in a derogatory. It's just great to see
no,
that you were in
no,
part
no,
of
no, it's
it.
all right.
Very Hitchcock was, Hitchcockian.
Exactly. Yeah, in the last film, I play a Nazi because look at me. I'm super white. I'm super Nordic, and I have no hair. Yeah.
Fair enough. I've played that myself. I've done a couple of I was in a documentary as an extra, and I did
Yeah.
a film about 3-4 years ago, where I had a speaking part as well in an independent film in the UK. I loved it. That's why I'd love to get back in. I'd really love to do more. It's just that I've got that horrible bit of switching between my main job, because I'm the main only income for the family.
Yeah.
And then just giving it all up to follow the dream. I'm just, I'm at that stage like I want to, but I can't. But yeah, no, I did when I filmed the documentary. This was going back about 15 years back. I was in a reenactment group, so I filmed Michael Sheard, who played Admiral Ozzel in Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, yeah.
And Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, he was Hitler in that, but he was playing Hitler. It was a documentary about Hitler escaping to the Andes.
Yeah.
And there's a picture of me stood next to him, and I've got a photo of me stood next to him in like a little German stormtrooper outfit. So I show my friends, but then I say, please, that is actually a film. It's got nothing. But yeah, it was good.
Yeah, cool.
You got to do it sometimes. I think you got to film. You got to go, whatever you can do to get into the film.
Well, as I said, I wanted to be an actor when I was a teenager, but then I realized it's like an out of body experience, because I realized how I think I look in front of camera, and that was scary. So I gave that up and went behind the camera instead. But now, in the recent time, I've done a couple of mockumentaries, like funny pieces, about where I play a journalist. And I did the last one I did was about Pippi Longstocking today, what she's doing today, when she's like in her 60s. And I've done 2 other ones also with famous fictitious figures, characters. So that's really funny to play a journalist, because I basically play myself, obviously, but I'm walking around and I'm finding Pippi Longstocking, and I have questions for her, and my questions are sincere, but what. And she answers, and it's a fun way of treating the mockumentary genre. So I have that side too, the super silly side. But it's fun. It's really fun.
Oh yeah, it's great to have that side. I think life without humor is boring. So
yeah, that's a tattoo, man.
I was going to ask you what some of your tattoos mean, because you've got some really nice ones on your.
Yeah, I have the Russian army. So this is Stalker, the Tarkovsky's 1979 sci-fi, and here's the Mirror, and here's Le Fils. So Dardenne Brothers are my, my favorite ones. Le Fils is from 2002. I think The Sun in English, I think
it is, yeah.
And then Persona, Ingmar Bergman's best film, I think. Yeah, so I have full portrait of Ingmar Bergman. I've
Oh, cool.
it's silly.
No, it sounds great. It's excellent. That kind of wraps me up for the minute. So, I mean, I'm going to change the view quickly. From my perspective, is there anything that you'd like to say, Jimmy, to people who are watching or listening this now?
If you want, you can follow me on Insta and Twitter. It's Regissor Jimmy, Regissor Jimmy with an Y. Just see what I'm up to if you're interested.